Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys so much for joining me. For those of you who don't know, my name is Samson, and in today's video we have an absolute treat for you guys. But before we get into it, if you're into all things automotive and maybe firearm content related, make sure you consider subscribing. We do it all. We do car reviews, we do shows, we do builds, and we do gun reviews. And so if you're into that type of stuff and you like the content, make sure you consider subscribing. But in today's video, we have the C8 Corvette Z06. And this has been one of the absolute hardest cars that I've been trying to find for you guys. They're only really giving out the cars that have already been ordered. And when you do find one of these examples that are for sale, they get bought up almost immediately. But as far as the C8 Z06 goes, the Z06 has long been like the second in running when it comes to performance for Chevrolet. Of course, top of the line, you do have your ZR1, but second in line, you do have your Z06, and there was a lot of looking forward to with this car. You get that beautiful 5.5 liter flat plane crank V8 in the back and this excellent supercar styling. And in today's video, we're going to go over some of the styling features in this car, some of the things that I like about it, some of the things I think that you'll definitely like about it. But just like that, let's get into the video. Coming to the front end of the Z06, one thing that you may notice is that this Z06 may look a little bit different than the Z06s that you're accustomed to seeing. And that's because this Z06 is not equipped with the Z07 package. Now, the Z07 package gives you a lot of extra goodies. It gives you the ability to unlock the actual carbon fiber wheels option that you can get, carbon ceramic brake rotors. You can also get a little bit more aero up here in the front with a bigger splitter, side canards, and a wing on the back. However, this is just the base level Z06, if you can call it that. But coming to the front, you do get a completely revised front end from your base model Stingray C8. You get this integrated front splitter into the bumper. Looks very, very beautiful, as well as these carbon fiber dive planes, I guess you can call them. Now, the front end of the Z06 is opened up a little bit wider than the base model, primarily for cooling, as well as the ability to have better track times. Make sure that aero funnels a little bit better through this car than it does on the base model. Love the piano black with the little bit of sparkle that they put into it in these front grills. And like I mentioned, the carbon fiber aspect, absolutely beautiful. Now, you do have a camera system up here in this front bumper. One camera shines down, the other one shines out to the side to allow you the ability to be able to see where your front splitter is on this car. That way that you don't end up bumping it into anything. It's also worth mentioning that the Z06 does come with, if you option it, a front axle lift. So you are able to raise up the front or lower it in order for you to get into high driveways, get over certain curves and stuff like that. Love how redesigned it is. You do still get the same LED headlights on the car that you're accustomed to seeing on the base model. However, as far as the body goes, it is a lot wider and basically fully redesigned from the C8. GM says just about almost 4 inches wider in the back alone. And of course it is wider in the front as well. You do get your Corvette badge right here in the center. You do get the Chevy bow tie, but the Corvette badge is so much more different than all the other badges that you get on your Chevy performance cars like your Camaro. Love seeing this with the racing history on this Corvette Z06. You do get these beautiful body lines that run up the length of the hood, making it look just absolutely elegant. Coming to the front quarter panel section, front fender area of this C8 Z06, you can see you do have those beautiful body lines that go over the wheel, those absolutely magnificent wheel arches. And let's just talk about the color on this Z06 real quick. Absolutely love the blue on this car. I don't know if you guys can see it on camera, but there is a little bit of metallic sparkle in this paint as well. Looks absolutely beautiful. Coming down to the wheels, GM has really stepped it up with their wheel design. For the base model C8, gotta say the wheel design on it was not too pleasurable, but for this Z06 model, they really stepped it up with their wheel design. Love these multi-spoke wheels. They are forged, and you do get a 20-inch rim, 21-inch rim in the rear, so you do get a staggered setup with these Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires. Somewhat sticky, allowing you to be able to grip those corners very good, but also gives you a lot of ability to use them for the most part year round. you do get a 275 width tire on the front, which is absolutely huge considering just 20 years ago for the C5 Corvette, the 275 width tire was in the back. And so you do get that in the front with the C8 Z06. Coming down to the side, you do get those beautiful body lines. Love the mirror caps on the Z06. They stick out with almost looking like some type of fighter jet. Very, very wide mirrors on this car. It makes it look even wider than it already is. You do get these side skirts that go down the side of the car, finished again in that piano black with a little bit of sparkle. And I love how GM decided to add a little bit of flair to this side skirt, which is primarily for usability. The side skirt is actually wide out in the front, curves in just a little bit towards the rear, and that is so whenever you're getting out of the car, you don't want to have to worry about hitting your feet on the side skirt or stepping on it. So GM does give you that functionality, that aesthetic pleasing feature of having it wide, but curving it in right here towards the area where your feet would actually go out at in order for you to be able to use the functionality of the side skirt without having too much of a headache or hassle. Sticking with this front wheel setup real quick, it is also important to note that you do get 6 piston calipers in the front, absolutely massive rotors to go with those 6 piston calipers, and they are 2-piece rotors with that aluminum hat, so you are able to save a little bit of weight on rotational mass at each wheel, which also helps with the handling. And of course, you know, anytime you can save some weight, you are able to go a little bit faster in a straight line as well. Coming around down the side, you would notice that this rear vent is also wider for the Z06 than it is for the C8. Absolutely massive rear venting area for this intercooler. And one reason that they do have to make it a little bit bigger is because you do have a lot more performance for this car, so you do need a lot more cooling. And sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between the C8 regular steam model and the actual Z06. And so one way that you can tell is by looking at the trim on this rear vent area. With the regular C8, you just get a bit of a trim line that just goes just around the vent. Not only is this vent shape different, it's a little bit more angular, but one way to tell this is a Z06, if you don't already see the beautiful Z06 script that is right here where the vent is, you do get this piece of trim that does start right here and flares out towards the rear quarter panel area, coming from this venting area to the rear, where you have these absolutely massive rear tires. Like I mentioned, you do get a staggered setup in this car, 21-inch rims in the back. They are steel forged. Love the multi-spoke design, and your rear rims do have a little bit more concavity to them. And so one thing I love about rims is that concavity. I feel like the deep dish look really insinuates how wide the rim is, just how beautiful it is. And Chevy does give you that with these stock rims. You do get a 345 width tire on the back, and so one reason that you do have such a wide extra almost 4 inches in the rear is because they do have to fit these absolutely massive tires and wheels in the back. And so whenever you do get a bump up in power, you do need more rubber in order to put that power down to the ground, and GM gives it to you with these 345 width tires. Coming to the rear of the Z06, you will notice that the rear is completely redesigned from the base model Stingray. Now, let's just talk about the top portion for 1 second. Now, I am more of a coupe guy myself. I do like having just a regular hard top. Plus, with the Corvette, if you do get the coupe, you still get that removable roof. It just takes a little bit more effort, undoing a few latches and then taking the roof out, putting it in the trunk. But this particular model is a convertible, and so you do have your regular retractable hard top. This thing raises up, allows the top to come back, and the top rests under here. But one thing that a lot of people may not know is that the Corvette actually has 2 storage areas, one in back and one in the front. And so with this convertible setup, you can see both areas where the engine would be as well as where the trunk would be for the rear. So when we go over the engine in a second, I won't be able to show you guys like I do on a lot of vehicles. Nonetheless, know that there is an engine up under here. Coming to the rear bumper area, you can see, like I said, it is fully redesigned from the base model C8. You do get these wider vents right here in the back, allowing a little bit more of that hot air to escape out from where the engine bay is. Now, one downside of not having the Z07 package or the Aero package that GM offers is that you don't get the massive wing. However, you do still get a wing on this car, as well as these little gurney flaps on the edge. These right here are extra attachments that you get from GM. And in my personal opinion, I love big wings. And so these being in addition to the car, absolutely excellent. You do get your Corvette badge right here on that trunk lid, coming down from the top of the trunk down to the bottom of the bumper. You do get a rear diffuser, absolutely beautiful in that piano black. I do wish that the owner of this car had optioned it with carbon fiber. The carbon fiber looks absolutely insane on this car. Nonetheless, the piano black with this rear diffuser and the venting, letting all that hot air flush out of the back of this vehicle, absolutely beautiful. Now, one major change for the Z06 over the base model is the exhaust. And it's not only the tone and pitch of the exhaust, but also where it's located. For the base model C8, it did still have a quad tip setup. However, the exhaust tips were on the outside of the car. Now, from the C5 to the C6 and the C7, all of them had exhaust tips that were in the center of the car, center mounted exit exhaust. However, for the C8 base model, they did decide to put them on the outside, and that caused a lot of controversy. So for the C8, you do get your quad exhaust tips here floating in the center. Absolutely beautiful design. Really, really love how they decided to mount these exhaust tips. And I feel like it's only right for the Corvette C8 to have these exhaust tips right here mounted in the center. One other feature on this rear bumper that really speaks to just how much wider the bumper is are these vents that are on the outside of this rear bumper. Now, they are for allowing a little bit of that turbulent air in the wheel well to come out of the back, help reduce lift and turbulence and allow air to flow a little bit smoother. But when you see these vents, you're able to just get a bit more of a concept of just how wide the rear of this C8 Z06 is. But just like that, guys, how about we go and I'll give you a little bit of details on the engine of this C8 Z06. I'll let you know about some of the intricate features of this engine. All right, guys, so let's go over some of the engine specs on this car. Now, in 2019, when Chevrolet introduced the C8, it was absolute controversy because the engine was in the rear, and it only gets crazier from that. In the base model C8, you do get a 6.2 liter V8, whereas in this C8 Z06, you get a 5.5 liter flat plane crank V8. Now, why the flat plane is so important is because it allowed GM to raise the rev limit up to almost right around 8,600 RPM. And that is absolutely astronomical as far as revving the V8, and it sounds absolutely insane. Now, this C8 does produce right around 670 horsepower, which makes it the most powerful naturally aspirated V8 to ever be put into a production vehicle, which is absolutely incredible. Now, it does only produce right around 460 pound-feet of torque, which is not much more than the base model C8, but this particular version is all about power and track performance. Now, one very interesting thing about this engine is that GM actually uses 3 throttle bodies in the engine. And the reason that that's so important is because it allows them to give you that 670 horsepower. And what happens is the throttle bodies open at different RPMs, which allows you to make the absolutely most optimal amount of power at each RPM, which is one reason why they're able to squeeze so much out of this engine. Now, aside from the 670 horsepower that this engine makes, of course, you know it is rear-wheel drive, but it is also made it to an 8-speed dual clutch automatic transmission. So you do get lightning quick shifts with this car. Now, as far as weight, it is right around 3,700 pounds, and that's going to vary based off of your options that you get when it comes to getting carbon fiber options versus getting a coupe or convertible. Your weight's going to vary, but right around 3,700 pounds is where the Z06 sits. And so it is more horsepower than the base model C8 at around 500. And it's also more horsepower than the new E-Ray that came out that has right around 655 horsepower. And so you're looking at the most powerful in a V8 put in a production car, not too heavy, can compete with a lot of your supercharged counterparts out there, It has more power in it than a Lamborghini Huracan. And so when you talk about supercar levels of performance, this C8 Z06 definitely is up to the task. All right, guys, and getting into the C8 Corvette, you'll notice, first of all, the seats are very, very bolstered. Now, this is not just a base trim level car. It is a little bit option on the interior. And so you do get these very, very nice bolstered seats, which I absolutely love. Coming to the steering wheel, you do get this almost square shaped steering wheel. Very, very unique. I haven't seen too many other steering wheels that are squarely shaped like this. You do get your little center line right here at the top, as well as your Z06 badge at the bottom. Beautiful white stitching. Now on the steering wheel itself, you do get your controls for adaptive cruise control, as well as your controls for controlling everything that's in your gauge cluster. Now, let's just talk about the gauge cluster for a second. Unfortunately, we are actually on the inside, and so we aren't able to actually start it up. But with the gauge cluster, it is fully digital. You do have different things that are displayed on the gauge cluster, like your drive mode, of course, your RPM, and you're also able to change your drive modes with this little knob right here in the center. And so a lot of people may think that this knob in the center is for being able to navigate through your infotainment system, which we'll get to in a second. However, it is strictly for changing your drive mode, and it says it up here itself. It actually says mode, and that goes through like your Sport Plus mode, your track mode, all those different types of things. And whenever you change them, they actually change the configuration of your gauge cluster to give you a more sporty feel or to give you a more comfort feel, which is absolutely beautiful. In this C8, you do get your paddle shifters. They are aluminum, feel very, very nice. And I love the fact that they're actually real metal too. They're very cool to the touch. Many paddle shifters have an aluminum look, but also just be very, very plastic. These are very high quality. Love the look of them. When it comes to your actual gear controls, you do have all that right here in the center. Your drive, your neutral, your reverse, your manual mode for whenever you do want to use your paddle shifters. Very, very nice setup and very, very simplistic setup as well. There's not a whole lot to this C8. It is very driver focused. You do have the gauge cluster. You do have your infotainment system, which, by the way, very responsive. You also have navigation, all the basic stuff you would expect from a 2023 model. Now, as far as this line right here down the center, it's pretty much all for your climate control. You do have your heated and cooled seat buttons up here, as well as both your hot and warm controls for both the driver and the passenger. You do have your AC, your defroster, all the things you would expect from your climate control are on this center strip. So it's not too complicated, just a very simplistic setup. Absolutely love how almost everything in this car is leather wrapped, from the dash to the center console area, the seats to the doors. Everything is leather wrapped, and that's a huge step up from the old Corvette interiors with the C5, with the C6. Whole lot of plastic, not the best gaps when it comes to your actual lines and stuff on the interior of the vehicle. A whole lot of stuff didn't line up, but with the C8 Corvette and the Z06 model, very, very nice materials. Now, coming to the doors, you do have your Bose sound system in your car. With your driver's seat, you do have memory seats, two different settings. So if two different people plan on driving this car, you can have the seats set up to two different settings for where you would like the seat position. You also have your window controls as well as your lock and unlock button. Now, one thing that I don't like about the new Corvettes that they did introduce to the C6 model is the electronic door popper. Now, with me, I prefer a traditional door handle that allows you to actually feel the latch mechanism opening up. You don't have to worry about too much failing. But with these electronic door poppers, something can always go wrong. I don't like how they feel. But if the battery is to die and you do need a way to pop open your door, you do have your actual door handle right here in the floor. If the battery dies, just reach down here, pull that up, that'll open the door for you. Talking about some of the materials on the door, like I said, you do have all aluminum trim on your Bose speaker cover, as well as your lock and door popper cover and where your window switches are. Everything else is leather wrapped. You're normally used to seeing a little bit of plastic on the door panel somewhere, even on high-end cars. But with the Corvette, everything is leather wrapped. beautiful white stitching, absolutely lovely setup to your door panel. Coming to the seats, you do have these leather wrapped seats as well. They do have a carbon fiber backing on them. Very high quality seats. You do get the perforated leather in the center. Like I said, they are heavily bolstered, and you do get your white stitching right here as well, lining the whole seat. Very, very beautiful setup. I love how they have almost this floating headrest at the top. And like I said, you do get your carbon that you're able to see by way of that floating area at the top. Very, very beautiful setup on this C8 Z06. Coming to the dash portion on the passenger side, you do have a button in the middle that allows you to pop open your glove box. And the vents on this car are extremely thin. I don't think I've ever seen vents fitted to a car that are this thin before. Very, very small vents. However, I'm sure they get the job done, as there is not too much room in this interior that you may have to cover. One thing that I would love to show you guys, unfortunately I can't, but one feature of the rear view mirror is that it does also act as a camera, at least on the coupe model. For your convertible models, you don't have that rear hatch section, so you don't have a camera that's actually mounted to the top. But on your coupe models, you do have a rear view camera as your mirror, or you can just have a regular mirror. Love how it is frameless. Very, very beautiful design. In the center, you do have your two cup holders. You also have a center console area and a little bit of a speaker right here in the center for your phone. You're able to place it right here in the center, right in between you. And a few Easter eggs that this 2023 model Z06 does have is about it being the 70th anniversary of Corvette. On the windshield, you do have Team Corvette at the bottom, and you also have 70th anniversary written right here on your speaker cover in the center, as well as 70th anniversary on your rear window right here in between you and your convertible drop top. And so I feel like that's a very, very nice thing to have. Shows just a little bit more specialness with this car. I feel like one reason why they may have put the Team Corvette up there on the windshield is so that if you are to crack your windshield, you have to come to them and get a new one if you want that Team Corvette up there. Overall, very, very nice interior, very, very nice quality and materials used in this interior. And it's not too much to complain about. When it comes to your door seal, you do get this beautiful aluminum door seal with the Z06 script right there. Just a very, very nice interior and overall very, very nice car all the same. And just like that, guys, that is a full review of the C8 Z06 70th anniversary. Now, like I said, these cars right here are some of the hottest cars that are coming out. This one right here is selling for right around $200,000, which when these came out, base model MSRP, right around 100K. And so these are only skyrocketing in value, and they might be going away soon with the fight against emissions and the push towards more electric-based vehicles, not only with performance vehicles, but also with your everyday vehicle as well. And so if you are able to scoop up one of these, definitely consider doing it. But just like that, guys, that is going to be a wrap for this video. If you like the video, please like, comment, and subscribe on your favorite feature of this car. Is this something that you would decide to get for yourself? But just like that, guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.